It is exciting to be here with such an amazing group of entrepreneurs. One of the things I love about being an entrepreneur is that life either pats you on the back or it slaps you in the face right away. And that gives you this amazing opportunity to learn all the time. And I'm going to try and share 3 lessons that I've learned over the course of doing Indow Windows with you. One of them is how to ask the right questions. The second one is coming up with holistic answers. And third, how to match your vision and your values to achieve the goals that you set out. So an Indow window is a window insert that just presses into place on the inside of a window frame to give you double pane window performance, but at a much lower cost. It's an incredibly simple mechanical design. Just a sheet of acrylic glazing edged with our patented compression tube. Really simple. And I was really excited about that simplicity when I developed the first prototypes and put them into place in my old house in Northeast Portland. Simplicity is a beautiful thing in design. And they made this incredible impact right away. We put the prototypes in my dining room, and instantly the home was more comfortable. I was saving lots of money. It was quieter. In other words, I was more comfortable, I was richer, and I was saner. So it can change your life. So think about Indow windows for your own house. The scary thing that happened was, after we had these prototypes installed, one day I walked down into my dining room, and I came in, and one of the Indow window prototypes had almost completely fallen out of the window. It was barely hanging there. It was somehow almost suspended horizontally over the floor, just ready to fall out completely. And that terrified me. I was like, what went wrong? This is horrible. And I had no idea, but as we started to dig into the problem, I realized one terrible thing, and that is that 95% of all window frames are significantly out of square. They're polygons or trapezoids, and we put a rectangular insert into this polygon-shaped window frame, and it didn't have enough friction up at the upper right-hand corner, and that allowed something bad to happen, because there's 2 other things that we learned. One is that our inserts were subject to thermal contraction and expansion. They shrank when they got cold. And then air pressure from the cold wind blowing outside would build up in the air pocket because our insert's so tight it keeps those cold drafts out, but the cold wind wants to blow the insert into my dining room. And that's what happened. And that was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to solve this problem? I had no idea at all. I was terrified. And we learned, as we scratched, there was even more. Transcription errors, right? If they write the number down wrong, or if they type it in wrong, or manufacturing errors. We could be delivering inserts all over the United States and be falling out of people's living rooms, and I would be ruined, along with my investors, probably a few in the audience. I didn't have any idea how to answer this, or even what the problem was. The first step was asking the question, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And so I created this big schematic about how data would flow around from measuring technicians all over the United States into our manufacturing system, and product would flow back out. And just only when I was able to kind of encapsulate the problem and identify all the potential sources of error, were we able to start finding the answer. And it took a long time and a lot of gray hairs on this goatee before we actually got there. And what we ended up coming up with is a system called MODI, Measure Order Data Interface. So a dealer uses an off-the-shelf lasering device with built-in Bluetooth. They measure the bottom, the top, the left, the right, and the 2 diagonals. All this data is wirelessly transferred over into a software program that we wrote that collects the data and has built-in error detection. So if a dealer mismeasures a dimension, the software catches the mistake and tells them to remeasure right on the spot. Once it validates, they can click a button, all the data goes into our cloud-based database, and we can make an Indow window that will fit perfectly almost every time. One of the things I'm most proud of as an entrepreneur is out of the 8,000 or 9,000 Indow windows we've installed all over the United States now, only a handful have ever failed due to measurement error. Because they fit so well all the way around the edge, they do a wonderful job of resisting those cold winds and staying in place and making happy customers. So, wow, that was a really tough problem, but we just had to understand what we were trying to solve before we could solve it. Thinking holistically, obviously MODI is a systematic solution to the problem. We look at our entire business that way. We've come up with something that we call the Indow Windows value chain. A lot of people think about manufacturing companies, and the way to become better is to just make your product more efficiently all the time and constantly bring out new products. Both of those are important, and we do them. But we also look at every aspect of our business, every aspect of the value chain, try and optimize each piece. How well we can target customers with our marketing, how well we can convert these leads into customers, how efficiently our dealers can measure and submit orders, and how quickly we manufacture and ship, and how easy it is to install. We look at it all. One great example of this is after we'd installed a bunch of homes, we asked ourselves, well, who is our customer? And so we looked them all up in Zillow, and we created a statistical profile, and we realized, wow, they're owner-occupied homes built before 1950 where household income is $50K and above. Where are these people throughout the United States? Once we asked that question, we got a grant to hire a GIS master's degree student, created a database of every zip code in the United States so that we know how many of our target customers live in each zip code versus the total number of households, which gives us a density figure. We created this database, we imported it into Google Fusion, which allows us to make a heat map of the entire United States. And we can zoom into any community, click on a zip code, it'll tell us the density of our target customers in that zip code, the income brackets in that zip code, and how much each household spends on energy, broken out by energy type. It's been an amazing tool for us to be able to guide our national expansion. We now have 80 dealers in 34 states and a few provinces of Canada. But it's allowed us to actually recruit the dealers because we can tell them exactly how many customers are around them. And then it also allows us to target our marketing. So instead of marketing to all of Portland, Oregon, people on the west side may not have heard about us nearly as much as people on the east side because this is where all the old houses are. So holistic thinking is very important when you come up with those answers to those problems. The third thing is, which we found really important is like, okay, now that we have this rubric or this way of understanding our business, how can we get really good at it? And one of the things that really occurred to me, I'm a second-time entrepreneur. The first time I did not have an intentional culture. With Indow Windows, we wanted to. We wanted to create a company culture that would help us optimize this value chain continuously so that we get better and better at each facet of it. So we came up with a mission, and our mission is to help homeowners achieve comfort and quiet in their homes while helping them achieve environmental and financial harmony. And we came up with a vision, and the vision was that we would be able to optimize every element of our value chain. And as we got more and more efficient at what we did, we'd share the increased profits with our customers through lower prices, with our employees through higher wages, and with the company through reinvested earnings so we can continue to grow the business and make it more impactful in the world. We have a very strong triple bottom line vision. I'm incredibly concerned about climate change. In fact, Indow Windows is partly my response to try and find a company that can be a profit machine to mitigate more and more carbon. That's the passion that drives me and keeps me going through the dark, dark days that we've had. So having this vision and then creating a set of values around it to help us achieve it was very important to us. So 3 of our values are people, profit, and planet, the triple bottom line vision that sustainable businesses have. We have a very specific combination of values here. One is that we want to drive the average MSRP of our product down to $15 a square foot while we raise our production wages up to a living wage and maintain company gross margins, right? So how can you do these 3 things at the same time? Paradox is 2 things that cannot both be true at the same time, but nevertheless are. These are 3 things that are hard to reconcile. Our solution is by driving that continuous learning and growth process through our value chain. So the other values that we came up with are designed to help us do that learning and growth all the time. And the values that we arrived with that would help that learning process are confidence and humility, creativity and discipline. Creativity helps us come up with completely innovative new solutions that help us do things in new ways. Discipline helps us make 6-foot by 4-foot polygons that are going to fit perfectly in a home in New Jersey and not have to be shipped back to the factory for rework. Confidence allows us to dare to risk new things, and humility allows us to learn from the mistakes that we dare to make. So if we can master these values and we actually really try to incorporate them into our company by, when we interview people, we kind of make our assessment of how they rank in confidence and humility, creativity and discipline. We actually use it in our 360-degree review process, where we look at each other and we think about where we are. These values are really interesting, and I think one thing is really, if you drew a big graph, put confidence up here and humility down here, you kind of find a scatter plot of people, and people that are really confident typically aren't very humble, and people that are really humble aren't very confident. How do you get out here? It's where each one of us as individuals are on that graph, and it's really interesting. But even more interesting than that is where we are as a company. How do we harmonize across all the disciplines? How do the really creative people who are coming up with these great new ideas work with the operations people that have to make it work every time? And so we all look at where we are, but most importantly, we look at where the company is as a whole. I think really interesting people are up here. Really boring people are down here. Really great companies are up here. And that's where we'd like to be. So I hope we can continue to be humble and confident. I keep on learning more great lessons, and hopefully be here again to talk to you about some other things I've learned, and hopefully tell you about the great exit that we had that made us all rich. All right, thank you guys very much.